Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a rehouse of my juvenile Psalmopoeus cambridgei. This is the Trinidad Chevron. Now, before we get started, we're going to do a quick little breakdown of the materials that I've got here. And this will make our rehouse hopefully go a lot more smoothly. So, of course, we've got the old enclosure. We're going to be upgrading her into a 1-gallon mainstays enclosure. These you can buy at Walmart here in the US for about $8 or $9, I want to say. They're not too terribly expensive. They're really nice too, especially if you're using it to house an arboreal species, because they are just the perfect height, as well as width, and they give you plenty of depth to add branches as well as a piece of cork bark for the spider to climb on. And they come with this lip here on the edge, which is really awesome for species like our avicularias that create those thick tube webs around the top portion of their enclosure. And this will actually prevent them, it will kind of discourage, I should say, the spider from webbing against its lid. That way we don't have to worry about destroying its web every time we remove the top of its enclosure. But we've also got everything that, in my opinion, any serious tarantula keeper should have. We've got our paintbrush that we're going to use to coax the tarantula into its transport container here and then into its new enclosure. We've got some forceps here with some rubber tips. We've got a syringe, which I actually just use this to fill up the water cap, which will serve as her water dish, but these are really great for adding extra humidity into the enclosure. You just take a couple of drops of this and just spray it into the substrate a couple times. And of course, with our transport container, what I've simply done is I've taken a deli cup. I believe this is either 12 or 16 ounce, if I'm not mistaken. But I drilled some holes on the side, of course, to give it a little bit of ventilation to breathe. And I took a drill, and I just drilled a large hole in the bottom here. And what we're going to do is I'm just simply going to place this over her old enclosure. And then I'm going to take the paintbrush and guide her into it, slip the lid under, and then move it over to her new enclosure, take the lid off really fast, since this is a very, very fast-moving and nervous tarantula that we're working with today. It's another thing I love about these mainstays containers is that these deli cups fit perfectly on top. So basically we're just going to let it sit like that, and then stick our paintbrush through this little hole back here, and that will hopefully encourage her to go down into her new enclosure. So let's give it a whirl, shall we? Holy Toledo. Alright, so there was a crap ton of webbing that was stuck to the lid of her old enclosure. So I had to actually take my forceps here and pull all that webbing back before I was able to even remove the lid. So it just goes to show you how heavy of a webbing these tarantulas are. Alright, so we're going to very gently coax her out of there. She's obviously going to be quite shaken up. Now, a lot of people are very, very apprehensive about rehousing fast-moving defensive spiders, such as this one. And this is especially true, I've noticed, of a lot of keepers who are just getting into old world species or are thinking about getting into old worlds. Now, these are actually a new world, but they lack the urticane bristles that the majority of new world tarantulas have, and therefore they both look and behave a lot more like your typical old world species in terms of their speed and their defensiveness. So definitely something we want to bear in mind. But with that being said, as long as certain precautions are put in place and we are patient as well as alert, we can rehouse our tarantulas with little to no hassle. And of course, it always helps when we have the proper tools at hand. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just this. Actually, I might not even have to do that. Alright, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a leap of faith here. I'm gonna actually take this deli cup, just place it right on top of her new enclosure. There we go. She's obviously, as I said, going to be quite shaken up, but she's actually been a very, very well behaved little lady. I say lady, but I haven't sexed this one yet, so it could be a male for all I know. Good thing about the cambridgei, as well as pretty much all the Psalmopoeus tarantulas, is they grow very fast and are quite easy to sex once they hit a certain size. And they are sexually dimorphic, so once our males have their ultimate molt or their final molt, where they develop their adult reproductive organs, they are very, very easy to tell apart from their female counterparts just from looking at their coloration. Let's have a good look at her, shall we? My, what an absolutely stunning spider. These are a close relative of the P. erminia, or the Venezuelan sun tiger, although the Trinidad Chevron, as the name would suggest, comes from Trinidad, and they get a bit larger than our sun tigers, which typically cap out at around 5.5 to 6 inches. Females of these can get damn near pokey-sized, as a matter of fact, and it's not uncommon to have an adult female that pushes 7.5 inches in leg span. So a very big spider, and they're not, granted, quite as flashy as the sun tiger, but still very pretty nonetheless. They're almost like a mossy green coloration, very fuzzy legs, and they have these bright orange tarsi, very much like the P. erminia. They got those sick looking lightning bolt markings on the legs as well. Now, like I said before, these are a new world. They are quite a bit faster and more spunky than your typical new world, as are all Psalmopoeus, but not to the point of anything like a feather-leg baboon or an OBT, at least in my experience. And they're a perfect tarantula for those that are looking to segue into eventually keeping old world species. And they are a tropical species, or at least subtropical, so they do appreciate a bit of humidity, but of course we want to balance that out with adequate cross ventilation. As you can see, I've got a lot of holes drilled in the side here. Didn't mean to cut the camera there. And got a little water dish. I'll probably upgrade her to a bigger one once I find something that's more suitable, but for the time being, our Gatorade cap will have to do. I gave her about 2-ish inches of substrate. I used this stuff called Jungle Mix, and I mixed it with some cocoa fiber. Then we got some green sphagnum moss for aesthetic purposes as well as for extra moisture. Some plastic leaves and vines. A piece of cork bark for her to web against. And some leaf litter, of course. Something that this tarantula likes to do is it'll create a vertical tube web from the ground up between its branch and one side of the enclosure, and it will take chunks of substrate or whatever kind of debris it can find on the forest floor and will attach that to its webbing in order to create a camouflage. And there we have it, folks. That is my rehouse of the Psalmopoeus cambridgei, or the Trinidad Chevron tarantula. I hope you all enjoyed, and don't forget to check out that Patreon. I'll post a link in the description below. If you are interested, I would greatly appreciate your donations. If not, feel free to stick around on YouTube, and stay tuned for more. Later.